Hey everybody, this is John Scarborough. Y'all can tell my voice is still bad. I actually made several videos in one day. This is actually the second day, so sometimes I actually make a handful of videos all in one day. It just depends on how it falls. You know, a lot of times I find a really good example of something I've been thinking about, and you know, it just makes more sense to make that video then. And sometimes it's very spread out, and sometimes it's all in one day. So anyway, just to clear that up, I just wanted to talk real quick. I don't remember if I got a picture of this when I first got started. I tend to do that. I try to remember. My wife always gets on to me about not taking pictures before pictures, and I always forget to do it. I get busy. I'm excited to get it done and get to work on it, and about halfway through, or sometimes a lot more farther than that, then I'll be like, man, should have got a video on that, or should have got a picture on that, and I just forget. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to show this little example with this small thicket of trees that I've got left here. I come into areas quite often where there are tons of weeds and vines along with trees, and typically the trees are bigger than these right here. The majority of them are this size or larger, and then they're quite a bit taller. I would say that a lot of times I run into areas where they're like these right here, like they're fairly tall, and and the weeds are thicker, even thicker than even this right here, and so there's multiple. It's like, well, how do you get in there and do it? And I've tried several different ways, and when I first started doing it, for some reason I had this mentality that, well, if I can just drop all the trees, if I can force my way underneath the vines and drop all the trees from behind, then I can grab and pull them all out. And that does work. It lays everything down, and then when you're pulling away, but what you're left with is the vines that are still on the ground. But it also tends to make dropping the trees a little bit more problematic, and sometimes it can be even dangerous. So now I have found that it's quite a bit better to go all the way around as best you possibly can with a blade on the end of a weed eater. I got over there is my weed eater, and I've got my blade head on there. And I'll walk over there and show you in just a second. But I'll take my blade and I'll get in here and cut as much of this as I can. And with that blade, if you got the right blade, you can actually drop that down pretty close, clean that up, and then sometimes you can even go up and down and get to where you can actually get to the trees. And if you do that quite a bit all the way through there, then everything stays attached to your tree. It's a simpler and easier and safer to cut your trees down. And then when you grab your trees as a group, I'll shove them all together. If I had a grapple, that'd be the way to do it, but I don't have a grapple. So I'll shove them all together, sometimes something like this right here. And if I can keep them together as a whole without having to pile them up, I'll actually show you over here what I did is a fairly good example. If I can keep them all together, I hope y'all can hear me over this wind in my voice. But right here, that's kind of what I did. And I laid these over in the pond simply so they'd be completely out of the way, but also so that they would be in the perfect direction for dragging them over. So you can tell that's what I did. Like the weeds, they started way back in here, and I just cut and went all the way around. I went to the back side, the front side, cut everything all the way around. So what I'll do is I will try to get these trees, the ends of these trees, combined together. And what I may have to do is put a chain on one, drag it this way, and put another chain, and then drag them a little bit, but not all the way out, and bring them all together, and then tie them together as a whole, and then start dragging. And when you do that, all the weeds that have been cut will come with you. If you try to drag one tree at a time, some of your weeds will come, but some of it will pull away. Sometimes you do have to pull one at a time, and that still works fairly well once you get all the way done. Once you pull every tree, it will still eventually pull all that away. So anyway, I don't know. I'm probably the one that needed to have watched a video to learn the best way to do this, because it seems like common sense. But for whatever reason, I tried it a couple different bad ways, and anyway, over time I figured out some really good ways. And the bad thing is I've mentioned this, I actually did some of this for a living for like 6 months, where we did a lot of tree trimming and then going in and clearing out big areas and things like that. I did that for about 6 months before I started welding as my first job. And so I should I should know better. But nobody there did anything like that. They didn't approach it like that. But the reason they didn't is because they had multiple guys and they had better equipment. So this is my technique for when you're working completely by yourself. No other people there, is to be a little bit strategic in the way you're thinking. Always think about where's these trees going to lay and what's going to be the easiest way to get them out with minimal effort. Okay, now I'll show you that blade real quick and then I'll shut up. I'll walk over here. And this is a weed eater, and you can put the blade on pretty much any weed eater. I would suggest buying the bigger weed eater. This weed eater is the Stihl F591. And I'm not promoting Stihl specifically. I've never used any other brand other than Stihl. But with that being said, I've been pretty well pleased with most Stihl products. But anyway, take it or leave it for what it is. I'm sure there's some other good products as well. But this is the blade that I like the most. I use this blade when we were kids. We actually had about 25 acres. My parents bought about 25 acres, and this is all we had to clear all the way around the entire place. We used this along with a chainsaw. We cleared all the way around it so that we could fence it. And this was the best tool to use. And then later, when I was working for that other company, we would use this right here a lot. And this was my favorite one. Well, once I bought one for myself, I had a lot of other people tell me, well, there's these other blades that work better. You know, you got the sawtooth blades and all this other stuff. Now, I haven't tried the one with the chainsaw chain. That one I have not. But I decided, you know what? I've only used this one. I'm going to try the other ones out. And I have tried them. There's a few places where I preferred them better. But overall, this is my favorite blade that there is. It will put up with a lot more. It will do a lot more. And the best thing that I like about this one over the other ones is it will actually sling the stuff out of the way, similar to a weed eater. When you're cutting with the other stuff, it doesn't sling it out of the way. It cuts it and then lays it back on top of you. And it's just, you work hard to try to keep it all out of the way. This thing, with blades like this, creates a slinging action similar to a weed eater, so that it actually slings the stuff out of the way, out of your way, rather than just cutting it and it falling wherever. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. That's some of the things that I've learned along the way. If anybody else has any other ideas or tips or things that they've learned, feel free, please comment. Let me know. Let everybody else who's watching these videos, let them know. All I'm trying to do is show what I do know in my experience. It will help some people. It won't help others. And it'd be great if we could all kind of create a community where we can help each other with that. So as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.